Thank you, Senator Pavley. Senator Stone?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to just applaud the author for bringing this forward. I'd like to move unanimous consent. I vote.
Thank you, Senator Stone. Senator Huff?
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, as evidence of my willingness to reach across the aisle and embrace good concepts wherever they are found, I am a proud joint author of this bill. You know, Senator Pavley and I have been looking for some vehicle for some time to agree to joint author on, and there's nothing more noble than attracting the finest and the best to our teaching profession for our children's future. So I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Huff. Members, any further debate or discussion? Senator Pavley, would you like to close?
Senator Huff said it all. Ask for your aye vote.
All right. Secretary, please call the roll. Oh, yes. Members, any objection to a unanimous roll call? Seeing none, ayes 37, no 0. We'll move to file item 37. Senator Liu, are you prepared to bring this measure forward? Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 68 by Senator Liu, an act relating to juveniles.
Senator Liu.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill will help reunite teen parents with their children, keep families together, and reduce costs to the state. This bill simply extends for 6 months family reunification services for minor parents who are making significant progress in a court-ordered plan. Children of minor parents are at greater risk of permanently losing their families because of barriers that impede reunification. This bill requires the courts to recognize these barriers, protect these families, and enhance the reunification process for children and their minor parents. Studies show that returning children to their families rather than keeping them in foster care saves the state and counties money. This bill is sponsored by the LA Dependency Lawyers, a nonprofit group that represents parents in the dependency court system, and I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Liu. Members, any debate or discussion? Seeing none. Members, any objection to using our unanimous roll call? Seeing none. Ayes 37, no 0. Measure passes. We'll now move to file item 38. Senator Fuller. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 111 by Senator Fuller, an act relating to school facilities.
Senator Fuller.
Well, I hope we keep this great spirit going forward. Mr. President and members, I rise to present to you SB 111, which will assist 11 public schools on or near military installations throughout California who have already qualified for a Department of Defense school construction grant by helping them fund their 20% match requirement. SB 111 will declare the legislature's intent to meet the matching share requirements of school construction grant program by directing the Department of Defense Finance to explore funding options, including low-interest loans through the iBank. We are not appropriating. We are asking to look for other sources of funding for the match. California has 28 public schools on this list, more than any other state. 11 of those 28 public schools are currently eligible to receive a roughly $240 million grant to repair and renovate these facilities. The military installations these schools are located near do not generate property tax revenue for the local school districts and serve highly transient populations of students who often move from one school to another. It seems prudent to use this federal funding, which is disappearing as other states draw down the fund, and we may be left out. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Fuller. Senator Huff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, as a co-author of this, I'd like to just sum it up really quickly. This bill guarantees a return of $4 for every dollar the state invests. No detailed analysis needed. No questionable assumptions to rely upon. These schools have a need. If we don't invest at $61 million now, we'll ultimately have to bear the costs entirely, perhaps up to $300 million. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Huff. Any further debate or discussion? Senator Liu.
I have a question for Senator Fuller.
Senator Fuller, will you accept a question?
I know when the bill was heard in education, the concern was the $61 million that Senator Huff just referred to as an appropriation, so to speak, from the general fund. And I saw that this issue is also in the May revise, that the administration is interested in resolving it. You just said that it was not an appropriation, so
In this bill. Yeah.
in your revised, this is a,
This bill was amended and revised. There is a separate budget request going through to see that the governor has put in, but this bill just says, in the absence of money coming forward, if we could explore ways and come up with a way to do it.
okay,
other
so
options.
it was not explicitly, the money is not supposedly coming out of the general fund. I mean, loans
That's
were
correct.
discussed and other kinds of means were discussed.
Yes, and CTA is now preparing a letter that they'll support it based on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Liu. Any further discussion or debate? Senator Wolk.
Yes, thank you. I believe I'm a co-author on this bill. I'm certainly rising in support of it. This issue affects those schools that are on military bases, and there are a lot of them in our communities. There's no reason to leave any federal money untapped for lack of a match on these school districts. They are in terrible condition, and they really do need to be moved forward. And frankly, we've been derelict in not doing that. I urge an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Wolk. Members, any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Senator Fuller, would you like to close?
I ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, is there any objection to using our unanimous roll call? Seeing none, ayes 37, no 0, measure passes. We'll move now to file item 39, Senator Hertzberg. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 134 by Senator Hertzberg, an act relating to attorneys.
Senator Hertzberg.
Senatores est civitatis libertarian tuedi. Above the rostrum, ladies and gentlemen, that's what it says. And what it means is, it is the duty of the Senate to protect the liberty of the people. And it is always easy to protect the liberty of the people with the big issues relating to the Bill of Rights and voting rights and the like. But quite often for everyday Californians, protecting their liberty, make sure that they have a lawyer. That when there's a domestic violence case, that they have a lawyer. When they're trying to protect against a tenants' rights case, they have a lawyer. When they're going to court, they get a transcript, they have a lawyer. That is fundamental. We have been trying to do that for a long time, but the practical realities to provide that level of liberty for folks, that access to justice, things that we all pass on this floor all the time, is barred because when lawyers get out of law school, they're burdened with gigantic debt. And the consequences of that debt is they cannot take a government job as a public defender or a legal aid lawyer because they can't afford it. So what do? Governors of both parties have vetoed legislation because they thought it cost too much money. So this measure asks the lawyers to pay for it themselves, to make a contribution to their duty as lawyers. California Business Code section, if I have permission to read, section 601.1, that Justice Reynoso talks about every time he swears in a new lawyer. He says, it is the obligation of lawyers to protect the public as shall be their highest priorities. These principles date back to the Magna Carta. I know, I was there. There is no cost to the state. We're asking lawyers on their bar dues to check off a number and say, will I make a contribution to help pay for this costs? So even if it's just 50 lawyers who handle 100 cases a year, that's 5,000 Californians who are otherwise affected. I think the numbers will be dramatically higher than that. It is a step in the right direction. It is exactly what needs to be done. And I'd like to quote Senator Vidak on my close, that common sense has no party lines. I ask for your support of this important measure.
Thank you, Senator Hertzberg. Members, any debate or discussion? Seeing none, members, is there objection to using a unanimous roll call? Yes, there is. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. Aye. Bates. Aye. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Block. Aye. Cannella. Aye. De Leon. I. Fuller. I. Gaines.
Aye.
I. Galgiani. I. Glazer. I. Hall. I. Hancock. I. Hernandez. I. Hertzberg. I. Hill. I. Weso. I. Huff. I. Jackson. I. Lotta. Leno. Leyva. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. I. Mitchell. I. Monning. I. Morlock. I. Morrell. Wynn. Nilsson. Pan. I. Pavley. I. Roth. I. Runner. Stone. I. Vidak. I. Wachowski. I. Wolk.
Secretary, call the absent members.
Lotta. Leno. Morrell. Wynn. Nilsson. Runner.
Ayes 34, no 0. Measure passes. File item 40, Senator Hertzberg. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 163 by Senator Hertzberg, an act relating to elections.
Senator Hertzberg.
Every one of us runs for office. Every one of us tries to get as many votes and talk to as many voters and explain what we're about. We got a pretty significant problem. In the June 2014 election, statewide turnout was 25%. That's 25% of the registered voters, members. In the November election, statewide turnout was 42% of the registered voters, and the purpose of this bill and the focus of this bill relates to Los Angeles County. In Los Angeles County, the turnout was just 31% of registered voters, and just in March 2015 in the city of Los Angeles, ladies and gentlemen, turnout was 8.6%. I question the legitimacy of our democracy at 8.6% of the turnout. So we've got to get creative. Can we motivate voters? We don't know. But at least we can remove the barriers that exist with respect to the voting process. We must think creatively, do everything possible to increase voter participation. And we know that vote by mail leads to a better turnout. Let me give you a couple of numbers from the November 9, 2014 election. In San Francisco and Senator Leno's, where Senator Leno represents, 59% vote by mail that resulted in a 10% higher than average turnout than the statewide ballot. In Marin, where Senator McGuire represents the folks, had a 71% vote by mail that created an 8% higher turnout than the statewide average. Senator Walk in Sonoma County, 76%, leading to an 18% higher voter turnout. Sacramento, where Senator Pan exists, 66% vote by mail. Santa Clara, where Senator Bell and Senator Hill hail from, 76% vote by mail. Los Angeles County, where Senator Hall, Senator De Leon, Senator Allen, Senator Hernandez, myself, Senator Huff, Senator Laura, Senator Leyva, Senator Mendoza, Senator Mitchell, and Senator Pavley, an impish 31% vote by mail, 11% less than the California average. So what are we trying to do on this thing? We're trying to think creatively. You get this little document in your ballot, and on the back, you have to, if you're not a permanent AV, you've got to fill it out, send it in, wait till they mail it back to you. You get another envelope with a bunch of junk in it, and then you got to mail that in, back and forth and back and forth. All we're saying on a pilot project one time, there's a number of other pilot projects, but the basic message of a pilot project is let's try anything. We're going to have this tear-off that's going to be actual ballot. And we're going to give it a shot and see if it works and see if it improves. Certainly it couldn't be any worse. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Hertzberg. Members, debate or discussion? Senator Huff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, just by way of review, this 2-year pilot project in LA County. So a question of the author. Yeah, question of the author.
Will the author accept the question? Yes, proceed.
Are you working with the governor and Senator Leno to appropriate money to help pay for this program?
We will at time. It says there's a provision in the bill which says that it's a reimbursable mandate in terms of the cost. Certainly this is not something in terms of this ballot, but as the costs incur, of course, that's a requirement under the law.
Thank you. That's a requirement we don't normally pay for. We have reimbursable mandates we don't pay, and this would be one. So having said that, if this is something that we're not working with to make sure that is the mandate that would be repaid, that would then mean over $1 million in funds that LA County would have to divert to other critical services. So without money, without the certainty that it would be there, I will not support the bill. I would actually ask for a no vote.
Thank you, Senator Huff. Senator Anderson?
I want more people to be participating in our election process. I think it's really important that every citizen is involved in the election of their leaders. It's really important to our democracy. It's part of the core of who we are as a people, unlike other countries. But I'm not sure that this bill gets us where we need to go. We know that competitive races drive more people to the polls more than any other issue. If it's a competitive race, there's going to be a higher turnout. And in most of the districts in California, we don't have competitive races. Now, some people will say, well, maybe the legislature's not competitive, or maybe the statewide isn't competitive, but the city council is. In many instances, we do see an increase in those specific races, but we may not see it as a whole. There's a couple issues that I have with this bill. First of all, I do believe we'll see more voting. I'm just not sure it's going to be legal voting, because you're sending ballots to people that aren't anticipating ballots, they haven't requested ballots. And if they don't receive the ballot and they're voted fraudulently, there's no protections. And that person doesn't even know. You know, one of the things that drives me nuts is I used to have a bank that would send me checks for my credit card, and I never asked for them. So if somebody took those checks out of the mail and used them, I wouldn't even know until I saw my statement. If someone were to take my ballot that was mailed to me because I'm not aware or anticipating that ballot, I wouldn't even know to complain. And if I didn't, what's worse yet, is if I didn't vote, I wouldn't find it at the registrar. And that's the big issue with this. The second issue, I think, of lesser importance is LA's the largest county. Why are we starting a test pilot on the biggest voting block where we may have fraud or produce fraud? Why aren't we using a smaller of the 58 counties, a smaller county where we could see the results, we could track it closer, and if there's fraud, the fraud won't be so overwhelming that it skews the whole state? Because if we have just a slight percentage increase of fraud in Los Angeles, that could be the tipping point on statewide races. I'm not opposed to exploring ways to get people more involved with their country. I think that's important. And you've heard me, if you're in elections, or if you track elections, you've heard me fight for that. But you know what? People died to allow us the liberties we have in our country, the freedom that we have today. We shouldn't go cheap on it. We shouldn't let them down. We shouldn't allow their lives to be lost in vain. Let's not allow fraud to creep into this. Let's go at this in a more thorough manner so that we can measure these results, so that we can encourage more people to be involved. But mailing out ballots to the largest county without all the protections in place, that's not something I can support. I urge a no vote.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. Senator De Leon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, let me articulate why this is a good measure. It's a pilot program, one. Two is the reason why it is Los Angeles County is because the senator from Sherman Oaks, from the Valley, has a good, constructive working relationship with the elections office in Los Angeles County. When you have a good, constructive working relationship and you try to achieve certain goals, which is increase voter turnout, irrespective of which zip code you may live in Los Angeles County, you take advantage of these relationships that exist. Not all elected officials have good, constructive relationships with the registrar's office, whether it's in Kern County, San Diego County, Orange, Santa Clara, or elsewhere. So you want to take advantage, number one, of the constructive relationship that exists in the county of Los Angeles. Two, obviously we're all on the same page with regards to voter turnout, and we're trying to find different tools. It's clear that the senator is trying to find different tools to incentivize individuals. And we're going to find out, hence the word pilot program, or the description, pilot program. It may work, it may not work, but we're going to figure that out. And that's why this measure is important, because it's not just about Los Angeles County, it's for the whole state of California. How can we incentivize, change behaviors, motivate? And I agree with the senator from rural eastern San Diego County. No one's life no decision should be made in vain for those men and women who are great patriots to this country. But this is not about patriotism. This is something that's technical in nature and it's practical. Let's incentivize folks who have been disenfranchised and marginalized historically, as well as socioeconomically and politically. Let's figure out if we can, move people to the ballot box. If it's successful there, then guess what? We can do it in Kings and Tulare and Kern County and Fresno and Orange and San Diego and elsewhere. So this is a great bill, and I just want to give kudos to the good senator from Sherman Oaks.
Thank you, Senator De Leon. Seeing no further discussion or debate, Senator Hertzberg, would you like to close?
Thank you. Just a couple of thoughts. First, I associate myself with the eloquent remarks of the pro tem. The handsome pro tem, by the way. But secondly, on the larger scale here, we've got a lot of stuff going on. We've got San Diego going on. We've got Yolo County. We got Sierra County. Some of these that are all mail-in ballots. And I just want to share one other thought. I don't think the fraud argument is gigantic because there can't be much fraud because there's not that many people voting. But the point is that I think you're going to have some impact in actually changing the nature of elections. Because what happens now, when I was here before, I changed the law from 30-day registration to 15, because people would get their brochures and they couldn't register because they had moved to a new place or something. But all of a sudden, think about this as folks campaign, particularly for local elections. In the old days, everything happens on Election Day, which is a Tuesday. Folks got to work. It's difficult to get to the polls. There's a whole host of reasons. Now everybody's going to have a ballot. So it gives candidates without financial advantage the ability to do the old-fashioned thing of going door to door and looking face to face with the voter and asking them for their support, and not engage in the complexities like we had to do in the old days of please send in your ballot and you send a thank you note and you track them, but really a way when people for 30 days have an opportunity to vote. And I think in addition to try to increasing the turnout, I think it'll give greater advantage to people without resources in these elections and move away from these campaigns that are just about these insurance brochures that we send out and big money, which is what we need to do to restore confidence in democracy. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Hertzberg. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen? Anderson? No. Bates? Bell? Aye. Berryhill? No. Block? Aye. Canella? No. De Leon? Aye. Fuller? No. Gaines?
Aye.
Aye. Galgiani? Aye. Glazer? Aye. Hall? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Hernandez? Aye. Hertzberg?
Aye.
Aye. Hill? Aye. Hueso? Huff? No. Jackson? Aye. Lara? Leno? Leyva? Aye. Liu? Aye. McGuire? Aye. Mendoza? Aye. Mitchell? Monning? Aye. Morlock? Aye. Morrell? No. Wynn? No. Nielsen? Pan? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Roth? Aye. Runner? No. Stone? Vidak? No. Wachowski? Wolk? Wolk, aye. Wesso, aye.
Secretary, are we calling absentees? I'm sorry. Okay, thank you.
Allen? Aye. Bates? No. Lotta? Leno? Mitchell? Aye. Nielsen? Stone? No. Wachowski? Aye.
Ayes 26, noes 11, measure passes. Members, we'll now move on to file item 43. Senator Block, are you prepared to bring this measure forward? Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 191 by Senator Block, an act relating to school transportation.
Senator Block.
Thank you, Mr. President. Transportation to and from school, of course, is critical. In terms of importance, it's right up there with good teaching and quality schools. If a student can't get to school safely and reliably, the student can't learn, will fall behind in their work. School district funding levels for transportation have been locked in at the amounts received in the 1980s, the early 1980s. Since that time, we know that population, demographics, transportation costs have all changed dramatically, and most school districts are spending more and more of their LCFF money meant to fund the classroom on transportation. The LAO concluded in a recent study that the reimbursement rates for school transportation are outdated and inequitable. SB 191 would raise the home-to-school reimbursement rate for California's most severely underfunded school districts up to 50% of cost over a 7-year period and provide an annual cost of living adjustment for transportation funding for all school districts. This would be paid for out of Prop 98 funding and is dependent upon the money being included in the budget. The bill is supported by numerous education groups and school districts, including the California School Boards Association, the sponsor of the bill, California Teachers Association, California School Employees Association, California Association of School Business Officials, and again, dozens of other school districts. The bill's enjoyed unanimous bipartisan support, and I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Block. Members, debate or discussion. Senator Anderson.
I've always been a big supporter of charter schools, and I know they're not supporting this, but I have to compliment the senator from San Diego. Many of us represent rural portions of districts, or our entire district is rural, and this is going to be very beneficial because these small districts have a hard time with the cost of busing, the cost of transportation, and unfortunately, under some of the new formula, much of that money that should be in the classroom is being spent outside the classroom simply to get students there. And if they don't comply by getting students to the classroom in many districts, it's unreasonable to expect somebody to walk 20 miles. But under federal law, those districts must provide that transportation. So I want to thank the senator for his hard work, and I look forward to voting for this thoughtful bill.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. Senator Hall? Oops. Okay. Members, any further debate or discussion? Seeing that none, Senator Block, would you like to close?
Urge a unanimous aye vote.
Members, would there be any objection to unanimous roll call? Seeing none, ayes 37, no 0, measure passes. Members, let us move forward now to file item 44. Senator Hall, are you ready to bring this measure forward? Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 199 by Senator Hall, an act relating to public social services.
Senator Hall.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. SB 199 will expand the authorized services provider under the IHSS program to include 2 hours per month in reading assistance and document completion services for the approximately 10,000 IHSS consumers who are blind. SB 199 brings much-needed assistance to consumers of IHSS who are blind, ensuring they are aware of critical information affecting their health and well-being. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Hall. Senator Jackson.
Yes, very briefly, I want to thank the senator for bringing this measure. I have an older brother who is legally blind, and one of the more contributing members that I've ever known, not only as someone who has lived with this challenge his whole life, but as a human being. And so I know that this is an obstacle for people, but does nothing to impair their ability to be contributing and wonderful members of society. So I thank you for this bill.